Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala says in His glorious book in Surah Fussilat, chapter 41, verse 3, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كتاب فصلت آياته قرآنا عربيا لقوم يعلمون. A book whose verses have been detailed in Arabic Quran for a people who know. We've talked about that the Quran is Allah's guidance, and it has detailed verses to guide us to all that is best. Whatever is best, the guidance, you will find it in the Quran. And there are many terms in the Quran, many verses. You can understand them at a shallow level, or you can understand them at a deep level. So it's if the Quran doesn't move you, you're at the surface. You haven't gone down to get the deep meanings. So Allah is saying Qur'anan Arabiyan. Yes, the Quran is in Arabic, but that's not what the verse is saying. The verse is saying that it's in the Arabic language, but it means that you have to understand it according to the rules of the language at the time of revelation. Because sometimes in language terms change. They may mean something like the word isaba. Isaba is a group of people, but in today's lingo, it's a gang. So language changes. You cannot just take today's terminology and explain the Quran. The Quran has to be explained according to the Arabic language, Arabic grammar, at the time of revelation. So Arabic is a very rich language, and it's very precise. For the people that know it, I mean, they understand what I'm saying. It's just incredible. Scholars spend many years studying the language so they can understand the Quran, so they can get deeper in the Quran, so they can bring those rich meanings to us. Because not all of us are capable of learning it at that level. In Surah Qaf, chapter 50, in verse 38, Allah says, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِنْ لُغُوبٍ. And we did certainly create the heavens and earth and what is between them in 6 days, and there touched us no weariness. Now, when the Quran mentions 6 days, we should not understand it's 6 earth days. The universe was created before the sun and the moon and the planets were there. A day is a rotation of Earth around itself. What is a day before Earth was there? We don't know. So when the Quran mentions 6 days, don't go to a non-Muslim and say the universe was created in 6 days. They can bring astronomical evidence that it took billions of years. What the Quran is saying, it was created in stages. That's the 6 days, it means stages. And the day before the universe was here, day of Allah, we don't know how long that day is. But Allah is telling us it was created in stages. Other verses in Surah Ar-Rahman, when he's describing the people in paradise, he says, مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَى فُرُشٍ بَطَائِنُهَا مِنْ إِسْتَبْرَقٍ. They are reclining on beds whose lining are of silk brocade. The lining, the part you don't see, the underneath, is from the best silk. What the verse is telling you to think, what do you think the top of that one that you're sitting on? How good is it if the lining underneath is the best silk? And that's how when we read the Quran, you have to Allah is not going to spell it to you. He wants you to use your mind. He wants you to dig a little bit, to ponder the verses, come up with these meanings. That, Allah is talking about His generosity in heaven. The same thing when it's talking about وَفَاكِهَةٍ مِمَّا يَتَخَيَّرُونَ in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, and fruit of what they select. Now you can understand the fruit as the fruit, but a deeper meaning of fruit is it's the perfection of hospitality. If I invite you and serve you water and biryani and yogurt, great, that's a great invitation. But if I have smoothies all kinds of fruit, flowers. What does that mean? It means that it's the I'm exaggerating in the hospitality. So when Allah is saying you have fruit in heaven, don't think that that's the only thing you're going to have. It's indicating the generosity of Allah and what He has in store for the people in heaven. So don't take it literally. Another one is يَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ وِلْدَانُ مُخَلَّدُونَ in Surah Al-Waqi'ah also. There will circulate among them young boys made eternal. The servants. The servants in heaven are young boys. And they're forever young boys at that age and they don't grow. So why Allah did say young boys? Only a parent understands that. What is the age where your son is the most beloved to you? When they're young, before they talk back. When they are young, they are innocent, they are cute, they're always smiling, they're fun to have, they're like a little angel in the house. And for a father, when the son is at that age, you look at him and it brings so much happiness. And Allah is saying the people who will serve you in paradise are also, on top of the physical enjoyment that you're having, there's a psychological, psychological enjoyment as well. That these people, these kids, these boys will be like like pearls. You would look at them and they would bring happiness. So that's what the verses is. That's what we have to understand from these verses as you start digging deeper into them. So Allah Ta'ala wants us to use our minds to ponder the verses, to go see if we can go a little bit deeper. If you don't ask, if you don't know how to do that, that's what the scholars are there for. People who dedicated their life to study the language, to study the seerah and everything, and they bring it to you already summarized. All you have to do is go put the time and study it. So كتاب فصلت آياته قرآنا عربيا, and this Quran is لقوم يعلمون, people who want to know, people who want to search for the truth, people who want to find their happiness in this life and their eternal happiness. That's who that Quran was sent for people with knowledge, who are ready to gain that knowledge and search for it, search for God's laws, the do's and don'ts, and implement them. That's who the Quran will benefit. So we have to seek knowledge, and that seeking that knowledge in our faith is obligatory. It's not something optional you can take or give. Now, most people don't need to go deep into the branches of fiqh and all of that. You don't have to be a scholar. Not everyone is going to be a scholar. But there is knowledge in our faith that you have to know by necessity. And I'll give you an example. The parachute. Do you care what type of fabric it is? Do you care how many strings are in it? Do you care? There are so many details in there. What must be known by necessity is how to open the parachute when you're jumping. If that's the necessity, knowledge. Do you need to know how the air conditioning works? All you need to know how to press, which button to press and turn it on. And you benefit from it. So there is knowledge in our faith that we have to have by necessity. So this critical knowledge is basic knowledge in Tawheed, in Quran, in Sunnah, in Seerah, the life of the Prophet, the life of the Sahaba. Knowledge on how to perform our obligatory acts of worship correctly. How to make wudu correctly, how to pray correctly, how to do your fasting correctly, your zakat and so on. Knowing your responsibilities, if you're a father, your responsibility to your children. If you're married, your responsibility to your spouse. These are knowledge. You have to know what the Quran and Sunnah expects from you when you are in that position. You have to know the lawful and unlawful in your possession. If you're a salesman, you have to know what is haram, because you start dealing with credit and with interest, and you get into down in rabbit holes and in things that are outside of the faith. So wherever it is, if you're a doctor, you need to know as a doctor, what are you allowed to look at and what are you not allowed to look at? What can you do, what can't you do? There is, if you're in that profession, that knowledge is obligatory. Because if you don't get that knowledge, you get yourself in trouble. You don't have to be a scholar, you don't have to know everything. Know what is, immediately necessary, for you. And this core knowledge must come from Quran and Sunnah. It should not come from, any other method. So anybody who brings it from Quran and Sunnah, then welcome. So we must dedicate time to get this obligatory knowledge. Because if we don't spend the time, that's how we get in trouble. Lack of knowledge is the root of all problems. When you don't know how you're supposed to act, you get in trouble. So we only have a limited time in this life, so we have to be focused and selective. You can't just go in and be broad in topics you may or may not need. You have to focus on the items that you need and get deeper and deeper in it. So we must equip ourselves with the necessary knowledge, because that knowledge guides us to the eternal happiness and to Allah's grace in heaven, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.